Have the fight, obviously, you're back in the TD Garden. You fought there already. It's home for you. That must be a pretty special thing for you. I know you're a big Bruins fan and Boston Celtics, fighting in the arena again. Do you have to pinch yourself sometimes when you're fighting in the TD Garden?
Yeah, it's really so special. There's nothing really that I could think of that would be better. That is better than that. I grew up as a little kid watching the Boston Celtics, the Boston Bruins play, at that arena, just, always wishing that I could be, like a superstar, just like every kid wishes they could be a superstar competing in the arena with all the fans cheering for him. I always had the envision of maybe being on the Boston Bruins or something, but, I get to live that childhood dream and go out there and do that. And, I get to relive it because I already did it once and picked up my first UFC win, and I get to do it again. So the crowd knows who I am. I got the hometown supporting me and the fans. So, man, I'm ready to go.
And it must be strange for you. Obviously, the last time you walked out, you got to wear your Bruins jersey coming out. You're not going to be able to do this time with the Reebok deal. Are you a little bit disappointed?
I'm not exactly sure yet. The only little loophole I might have, I'm gonna talk to Dana because the Bruins jersey is a Reebok jersey.
Okay. Cool.
The hockey, the NHL is sponsored by Reebok, so the Bruins jersey I have says Reebok on it, and I got one, but it's might be a slim to none chance, but it definitely I'll see what I can do when I get to Boston and see if it's possible to wear it out, because since it's Reebok sponsored shirt.
That'd be awesome if you get to wear that.
Yeah, that would be cool, Yeah.
Big time, man. And I want to go back a little bit. You said comments during the week about Dennis Seaver. How do you feel looking back on that now? A guy who's tested positive. We saw that fight in Sweden. It was one of your 2 fight of the night performances in your 3 UFC bouts. Is there resentment towards Dennis, the way things have sort of panned out for Dennis and what we know Dennis has done?
No, I definitely went in there. I was 9-0 going into that fight.
Yeah.
Undefeated. Super confident and everything like that. Obviously I found out. I don't know if everybody knows, but I found out about that fight for my UFC debut, biggest opportunity in my life, on 5 days' notice, and it was 5 days' notice in another country. Sweden, which is Europe, which is Dennis Seaver's home. He was top 10 in the world at the time. So it was definitely kind of like, for me, because I always grew up watching Dennis Seaver fight. He had more fights in the UFC than I've had in my career, as a professional. So I was kind of like, oh man, Dennis Seaver, I grew up watching him on TV, and now I'm fighting him. But you know what? That's the way it goes. My goal is to be the champion. So I figured that this would happen one day, and it would come to me fighting one of the guys I looked up to in the sport, and it happened. I went out there. I gave him everything I had at the time. I had to cut 33 pounds in 5 days and stuff like that, but like, no excuses. I went out there, battled as hard as I could, and obviously I did all right. I got fight of the night, and I was really disappointed I didn't win, but looking back on the fight, I think I'm not sure there's many other people that would have done any better in my situation.
You said during the week on that interview that I mentioned there that it's part of the game, PED use, and it's something that's being part of mixed martial arts. Do you think it's become less part of the game now that the new regulations are in place? And obviously you're delighted with the new regulations being in place.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually just got drug tested 3 days ago from USADA, and a couple of my teammates did. They came knocking at the door at my house, and they watch you go through the whole thing. So I think it's very difficult to be able to get around it and stuff like that. And it really, it's good for me. I'm one of the fighters that doesn't do any of that stuff, and it's really comforting to know when you're going into fights you're not going to be at a disadvantage, So I think it's a good thing that they have the rules in place to have it like that. But I think before the USADA came in, there was definitely, you never really know if the guy's taking them or not. But now I think we got a pretty clear slate, and I think it's fair the way it should be.
Yeah, definitely more of a level playing field, obviously. I want to talk to you. Are you a guy who uses the IV as well? I'm not actually sure 100%.
Yeah, you're not allowed to use IVs, so
yeah, I know.
I won't be using it. And
is that going to have an effect? Is that going to have effect on you going into this fight with your weight cut?
No, I don't think. I'm walking around 3 pounds lighter than all my other bouts, which is a lot. 3 extra pounds of liquids that'll be able to be in me, So I think that'll make a big difference. But in the same breath, I fought at 145 pounds 3 or 4 times in my career. Before I ever used IVs. I didn't start doing IVs till I made it to the UFC. I just did it because that's what they were telling me to do. All my coaches and stuff. I wasn't a big fan of them. I mean, like I said, I just did it because I was
Yeah.
taking the advice of my coaches and teammates. But yeah, I don't think it's going to affect me at all. Like I said, I'm in good shape. I'm really trimmed now, and I'll just have to drink water the way it should be done.
And from a fighter's perspective, you're obviously with a huge team, one of the biggest teams in the world in ATT. There's so many top level guys there. Do you see a big shift in weight class because of the IV ban, being a fighter, and looking around with your colleagues? Do you think there's going to be a lot of guys going to get up weight classes this year?
Yeah, absolutely. It's great for me because luckily for me, I have the opportunity to train with all these guys, all the best guys, and sometimes when I'm in the cage or in the ring, whatever, and I'm, going with guys, and I'm like, man, these guys are big. I have to train with the 55ers. I have to train with, the guys that are whatever. I mean, a lot of guys are much bigger, but now it's like a lot of the guys that were big for the weight class all moved up a weight class. You know what I'm saying? So it really, it kind of gives you some more confidence knowing, okay, cool, well, he's the higher weight class than me, so that's maybe sometimes why he's a little bit stronger and stuff in training. So, yeah, definitely have noticed a lot of my teammates have moved up weight classes. I saw Dustin Poirier, he moved up from 45 to 55. Nick Lentz moved up from 45 to 55. These were all my training partners before, so, definitely I've seen guys move up in the gym, and a couple other of my teammates.
Definitely. You're a guy as well, you 20, I think it was, amateur fights before you turned pro. Do you think there's a lot of guys in the game now that, haven't had enough amateur fights and they've basically rushed, into the pro game? Do you think it'd be better if we saw guys in the future, up and coming young fighters to have a little bit more time in the amateur ranks?
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's for many reasons. I think number one is just experience, and there's a lot of things that you go through as an amateur that are really important leading up to the pros, because sometimes you get in the pros, you get in the pros and your record could be 4 or 5-0, and all of a sudden you're fighting in the UFC, and then you win, 2 UFC fights, and you could be looking at like title shots and stuff like that when you've only had 7 fights. When you fight all these amateur fights, there's so many things that happen in these amateur fights, the build-up and interviews, post-fight interviews, pre-fight interviews, and people don't take into consideration. I mean, yeah, the important thing is you get in the cage, you lock the door, you get the win. But what about when they hand you the microphone after, or the interviews before that, and the weight cuts, all these little things that play a huge factor into fighting. It's not just always the fight. It's the lead up to it and the after, and how you can handle yourself as well. So I think that is just as important as the fight, because that's also for the fans as well. I mean, this fan, the way everything is generated, revenue and stuff like that for the UFC is off the fans. So and TV and stuff like that. So I think that's really important.
Definitely. And you mentioned something interesting to me, and I've sort of been saying a lot in our show here recently in the last number of weeks about promoting yourself on the microphone. Especially, we see guys obviously like our own Conor McGregor, very good with the microphone skills. The UFC have put a lot of promotion behind him. Do you think the UFC could be doing a little bit more to promote some of the fighters in the UFC?
Oh yeah, 100%. There's no doubt about it. I mean, as they should. They should take the guys that they should be able to build the right guys up that know what they're doing. I mean, I don't go against it. Just like Conor McGregor, I think if Conor McGregor didn't have the wit and the way he carries himself, then he wouldn't have got a title shot so fast and things like that. So that's what I'm trying to say is, like, this experience and the amateurs and the build up for all this stuff is almost just as important as the fighting. I mean, so I think it's a very important part of the game that when you don't have your amateur career, you miss out on a lot of those things. You miss out on a lot of experiences and things like that. But I mean, everybody does it different, and that's completely up to the fighter.
Yeah. And I want to get back to you. You've traveled the world. You've been to Holland a number of times. You've obviously fought in Sweden. You fought at home in Boston. You fought all over the world. You've trained all over the world. How vital has that been for your development as a mixed martial artist? Getting these different styles and adding to your repertoire.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, I got a little bit of a late start in the game. I didn't start training until I was 23 years old. I was just a hockey player before that. When being able to go to all these different places and see all the train with all these different guys is that's what a mixed martial artist is. Somebody that's open-minded, that is willing to learn, and that's what's going to be the best. Is if you can learn the best striking from there's always going to be somebody better than you at one particular thing. If that's all they do is, as a mixed martial artist, you can't be the best at everything. you can try to be, you can work and everything. So what I do is I try to find the guy that's the best at his one special technique, and I try to learn it from him and bring it into my toolbox and, make myself the best fighter I can be. Like I said, I got a little bit of a late start in the game, so I'm still growing a lot as a fighter. Every single fight I'm getting better, learning more. I didn't get to wrestle in high school and stuff like that, so, it took me a couple of years to get my wrestling up to par. Everything, just striking, boxing, there's so many different things you have to learn.
Yeah.
And, I don't want to be learning them from the guy that's the second or third best or, at it. I want to be learning from the guys that are best at it in the world. And that's, I feel like, how you could be the best is getting the best people at what they're best at, and that's the way I look at my coaching. Like at American Top Team, I don't think anybody would argue that it's the best team. I've got to go train boxing with, Floyd Mayweather and just in Las Vegas.
Brilliant.
At his gym, I've got to train kickboxing with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. The karate.
Awesome. Yeah,
Got to go to Holland with the best kickboxers and, jiu-jitsu at American Top Team. So I've got to, train with all the best guys and just to build my skills.
You mentioned that ATT, and I've seen the new gym. I've seen little snippets of it, what's going on down there, and with the redevelopment of the new ATT facility. It looks fantastic. How's that coming along?
Oh man, it's really amazing. It just opened up on New Year's, so it's pretty cool. I mean, it came at a little bit of a weird time for me because we're moving and I'm in the middle of training camp, but everything worked. It's a beautiful gym, great facility. Everything is beautiful there. It couldn't be any better. I think it's always what I have imagined every gym to be like. Every time, even when they're like, "Oh, you're going to Holland, you go into the best kickboxing gym in the world," I envision like this huge mega facility with all the best fighters there, and I get there and it's literally like the size of my room, and I'm like, "What?" So this is always what a fighter dreams of, is having this big facility and everything that you need, and it's exactly like the best gym you could possibly imagine. That's what the new American Top Team facility is like.
Awesome, yeah. And talk to me about working with some of the featherweight names in there. We've had, we've spoken with Mirsad Bektic on the show here before. There's Cole Miller to name but a few. That's obviously hugely beneficial. Coming up to fight time, who do you spar with? Who do you work with in the gym and sharpen up your tools in order to prepare for battle?
Yeah, those are all the guys I work with. Mirsad's a great friend of mine, great training partner. Good kid, very talented as well.
Yeah.
He's up and coming. He's a huge prospect. He's one of the guys I was working with a lot. Always since I went to American Top Team, we got in there about the same time. So I came up with him through the professional ranks and stuff like that when me and him were first in the gym together. So he's a good friend of mine. All the guys, we got Dustin Poirier in there. He's been in the gym. Cole Miller. He's one of the first guys I ever got to train with. He was actually my first sparring partner ever in my life. And, he's one of the guys that helped me get ready for this camp, and I helped him for his last one. So, the name is pretty endless of all the guys. We have Mike Brown teaching.
Yeah, of course.
He still gets in the mix a little bit. Dean Thomas, Ease Edwards used to come by, and, I used to get rounds in with him. So, there's an endless list I could go on of great guys. Another one is Daniel Strauss, the Bellator champion.
Yeah,
he's one of my good training partners, really solid, nice kid. And this is, like I said, the list is endless, and that's why I think the American Top Team is such a good place, because you get all these looks, and when you go with these guys that are all this level and you see them perform, and you see how you do against them, there's no question in your mind that you belong where you belong, and that's where it's the best.
We just have to put in a word for Yves Edwards. What an analyst on Fox, by the way.
Say it again?
He's been a brilliant analyst on Fox when he's been on Fox Sports. Yves Edwards, he's been absolutely fantastic. His fight analysis.
I don't think it's on Fox this time. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure if the UFC's broken the news yet about my opponent Jimy Hettes, but we're working on it. They just told me that I have a new opponent and stuff like that. They said they found somebody. They haven't given me the exact name or stuff, but Jimy Hettes is out for UFC.
Oh, he's out,
Fight
is he?
Night 81.
Okay, I didn't realize that. So you don't know your opponent yet?
Yep. Yeah, you guys get the breaking news.
All right.
Jimy Hettes is out of UFC Fight Night 81. So
okay,
they told me
When did you find out about that?
I found out this morning. So I just I found out this morning about that. So they sent me a message saying they got a replacement guy coming in for me. So I told them I'd accept whoever it is. I'm ready to fight.
Anyone,
Yep.
Does that obviously disrupt your preparation a lot, or was there any reservations about taking the fight?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it definitely affects it a lot. I was training against a southpaw for jiu-jitsu, so
Yeah.
it's what it is. But there's not much you can do. It's part of the game, and it's bound to happen to everybody. It happens to everyone's career at least once that somebody pulls out of the fight. So, like I said, I mean, this is more about me, So
Yeah.
the way I look at it is say, listen, I've trained for 4 or 5 months for this fight every single day, and I haven't taken any shortcuts. I've done everything I can do. The other guy's in the same position. I mean, he didn't even know about this fight, so I feel like I'm the one at the advantage, whoever they put in with me. So it really doesn't make a difference once the fight day comes.
What's the process of deciding whether to go in and take the fight after there's an opponent change in such short notice as well? I remember, obviously, a few weeks ago
Yeah.
we had UFC Dublin here, and your teammate Dustin Poirier. I spoke to Dustin after that,
Yep.
and he said it was a decision with Mike Brown, the guys that sat down for a few minutes and talked with his management team, etc. Is that similar sort of situation?
Yeah, well, bottom line, it comes down to the fighter. It's the fighter's choice. So if I say I want to fight, then it's up to me. I do have a manager, Charles McCarthy. I have American Top Team, my coaches, Mike Brown, Vin Thomas. I have these guys in place to help me make these decisions and run it by me, and we talk about it and stuff like that. But bottom line, like when it comes down to the yes or no, that's my decision or the fighter's decision. Obviously, I talked to my manager.
Yeah.
He told me that, the guy that he gets you is going to be a UFC newcomer, stuff like that. So it's, coming up from a weight class. So this is all like things that, he's going to have to make weight in a week, just like I did against Dennis Seaver. So he's going to be a little bit of a disadvantage, of course. But like I said, this is, we went through it, and I want to fight. So it's going to happen.
So you've no idea who the opponent is yet?
No. They told me he's a world champion jiu-jitsu guy. They haven't given me a name yet. They said he's a UFC newcomer, so just waiting for the confirmation now.
Okay. Yeah, well, interesting news there, and obviously breaking. It's happened to a few of your teammates. You mentioned it happened to Mirsad Bektic as well back last January. I remember Paul Redmond, our own Paul Redmond, had to step in and take that fight in a week's notice as well. It's a thing that happens. Obviously, an unfortunate set of circumstances, but glad to hear you're still going ahead and fight in your hometown. That's obviously great news.
Yeah.
Talking about this fight as well, you've had 2 of your last 3 fights have been fight of the night bonuses. Is it about going in here now this time and getting the win? They've been really exciting fights, but is it about getting the win instead of putting on a performance here?
I'm not going to change the way I fight for anything. I go in there every single fight. I have a 100% finish rate. So my mentality, 100% finish rate in all my wins. So my mentality is to go in there and try to finish the guy. That's, some people disagree with it. Coaches might disagree with it, but that's me as a fighter. I can't stand being on top of someone and stuff like that. Like, I'm a fighter at heart, so my mentality is like a gladiator type mentality. I feel like there's 2 of us going in the octagon or the cage or whatever, and only one of us is coming out, and that's my mentality. So that's how I fight. I go in there and I'm trying to put the guy away, put him to sleep, put him out, or whatever I can do. And I'm trying to do that to the second the bell rings, to the second the bell ends, and that's the way I fight. I'm not going to change it. So
definitely, and your last 2 fights as well. You fought guys who are up and coming guys like yourself. Trying to make a name for yourself. Division 2 really tough opponents, and the guys like Sean Sariano. Obviously, you came off a great win there on a very razor close, tight fight against Yair Rodriguez. The fight of the night money that you've got, I believe you've invested some into the stock markets and things like that. How important is it now to think outside of the box for a mixed martial artist because of the nature of the beast that we're in and the MMA and obviously being in the UFC?
Yeah, can you say it again? Say that one more time.
How important is it for a fighter now to think outside the box, with his money? Because obviously it's you never know if you're going to finish.
Yeah, absolutely. Personally, for me, without the 2 UFC bonuses that I got, both the fight of the nights, $100,000 total. Without that, I wouldn't be broke, but I wouldn't be able to. Without that, with the money I've made off fighting, I wouldn't have any profit. You know what I'm saying? After the 3 fights I've been in, so that's definitely something to take into consideration. Luckily for me, I went to college. I graduated from Johnson & Wales University Culinary School. So I also have a job as a chef. I only work 1 or 2 days a week now when I'm in training camp for my fight, and stuff like that. But yeah, I always think outside the box. You don't exactly make enough money in this yet to be able to cut everything off. obviously when training camp comes up, I don't have to work I don't have to work as much. But yeah, I mean, I'm also a chef at a 5-star restaurant, and
Awesome.
it's something I love to do. Also, it's a hobby. I mean, I do it because I want to, not necessarily because I need to. But yeah, it's definitely something that I always take in consideration, whether it's after fighting or any time. It's always good to have extra money in your pocket because
You
of
never
the
know what's going to
situation with
happen.
the UFC now.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen. You've had a lot of trials and tribulations in your life as well. I believe you lost two of your brothers to substance abuse, and I know you had a couple of issues as well with substance abuse. How important is it for you to obviously stay grounded? And you mentioned there, it's your chef work is something that you do as well that you love. Obviously, MMA. How
Yeah,
important was that for you to effectively save you? I believe to
yeah.
being a mixed martial artist.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. That's what I mean. Mixed martial arts saved my life. I mean, luckily I was able to go to school and go through all these things after I lost my brothers. Obviously, it was really tough to deal with mentally and stuff like that. So, I kind of went to move down to Florida to start over new, and that's how I found mixed martial arts. I just kind of was looking for a hobby. I was always used to playing sports as a kid growing up. I was always really competitive, and after college, it was kind of just gone. And I'm like, man, I don't just want to work at a restaurant as a chef the rest of my life. Like, I need some hobbies. I need
Yeah.
some excitement in my life. So I found a boxing gym. It ended up being an American top team MMA gym, and met the guys, Charles McCarthy, met Cole Miller, met UFC fighters, and I didn't know who they were when I came in there, but after my first sparring session with Cole, they told me that I had what it takes, and since that day, a light bulb went off, and I put everything, I put my whole heart and soul into it. And as far as the staying humble thing, I mean, that's huge for me because, like you said, like it's really important to have that. I think a lot of fighters start to lose it as their fame gets bigger and bigger. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I always did is I pride myself on when I first moved to Florida. I just had a bicycle. I rode it everywhere. Eventually I was able to buy a car after working after a few years. But the first year or two, I just started from the bottom
Mm.
basically. And even now to this day, when I work at my restaurant, I still ride my bicycle there. I still work just to keep myself humble to know that if you don't put everything into this is what you're going to be doing. So that's kind of what gives me that drive and that extra edge. So I don't lose it. So that's what got me there.
Fantastic stuff. Talk to me about as well. So guys can get in contact, help out. I know your dad has a charity as well.
Yep, yep, yeah. My dad started a charity after I lost my two older brothers, Dominic and Vincent. They put their ashes in the ocean. So my dad, what he does is he started an organization called Chucky's Fight, and my dad lives up in Boston, and I'm sure you guys know Boston. It's freezing
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
winter
yeah.
time, just as it is in Ireland or whatever. And it's what he does. He jumps in the ocean every day, and it's his way of coping with losing my brothers. They put the ashes in there. It's kind of his way of just coping with the loss of my older brothers. And he started a charity, Chucky's Fight, to help educate teens and kids on substance abuse,
Brilliant.
so they don't have the same problems. And what he does is he gets pledges from corporations and different people and companies that want to help, and he goes and he jumps in the ocean, and maybe the president of the company will come in, so they get the pledge and they raise a bunch of money and they film it. They'll jump in the blizzard and the snow, so it's like pretty cool. They film it, get out, and use that money to help people that don't have enough money to go to treatment centers, goes to school, speaks to kids, and it's all for a good cause.
Awesome stuff. That's fantastic, guys. Do hit up that um, charity and pledge money to it. That's absolutely fantastic cause. And listen, mate, really do appreciate the time. It's been great catching up with you. Fascinating stuff, and I'm glad that you're still fighting next week. And obviously, sorry to hear about Jimmy pulling out of the fight, but
Yeah.
definitely looking forward to you fighting this weekend at UFC Boston. Anyway, and where can the guys find you on social networks?
Oh, for sure, yeah. The best way to find me is on Twitter and Instagram. It's Charles Rosa MMA. At Twitter and Instagram, you can find me on Facebook, Charles Rosa. I also have a fan page, Charles Rosa. So definitely, find me on there. Give me a follow, and also you can check out the website, Chucky's Fight, www.chuckysfight, CHUCKYS fight.com. And that's if you guys, want to make a pledge or whatever, donation to, like a good cause. So that's the easiest way to find me.
Definitely, Charles. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, and best of luck with your fight against your unnamed opponent this weekend. It's been a real pleasure to have you on the show.
Hey, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.